Good evening. If I could have your attention, please. We'll start to get this event on the road. You know, they said, if you build it, they will come. And if we'd have thought 3 months ago when we started this event that we would have had the turnout like we do tonight, there would be no way. I would like to thank, our candidates that travel from South Louisiana up here to visit us North Louisiana people and to make us feel good. Well, let me tell you something. You make us feel good. We appreciate it. We appreciate the travel and the time you take out of your schedule to come visit. This is going to be a great night. This is something that's never been done before. I mean, when you think about it, trying to put together this many politicians in a room at one time is kind of rough. But that's just the way it goes. But before we go any further, I need to thank some people first. Misty Cordell, Christy Jones, Wade Bishop. Could y'all stand up for just a minute, please? I can assure you this would not have taken place without their effort. They have been relentless in putting this thing together. Not only are they dedicated, but just the pride in putting something in North Louisiana together with this group of people. It's a great day to be a Republican, and we want to continue that. There's some struggles that we have. We can overcome them. We got to select good candidates. That's why we're here. We're giving North Louisiana a chance to pick candidates. So many times, myself included, it was like, God, all the power's in South Louisiana, and we don't get to visit with anybody. We don't know those people. Well, that's over. Those people are so kind to come up here and let us visit with them, find out who they are, find out what they stand for, and let us be a part of the process. Thank you very much for that. So, what we're going to go with now, and we'll have some instructions later on the rules of the game. But I would like to bring up Mr. Darius Warren, Reverend, to say the invocation for us.
Would you stand with me? I promised Woods Watson, who's a pastor in our area, that I would keep the prayer short, because with this many politicians in the room, we could be here a long time. If you will, let's bow together. Father God, we thank you. We thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening with friends from all across our great state. We're so blessed, and we're forever grateful for your blessings, your bounty, and your provision. Lord, your word says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and heal their land. Father, we pray tonight that we would humble ourselves before you and that we would seek you. Help us, Father, to turn from our wicked ways, and we pray that you would forgive us and that you would heal our land. God, we need you. You're the only hope for our country. Not a single person or single candidate in this room can change our state or our country without your guidance and without your strength. Father, we live in a country and a world that's divided. We pray that you'd unite us, unite our hearts together. God, help us to remember that we are one nation under God. Continue to bless this time tonight, and may everything that we say and do bring honor and glory to you. We ask it in the name of Jesus. Amen.
And the Honorable Dr. Ralph Abraham for the pledge.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Misty.
Okay, I found out a minute ago that I was getting to introduce our guest speaker tonight, which I'm very happy to do that. I'm going to have to read from my phone, though, because I didn't have time to print it out, and Lord knows I can't see. So, we are very happy to have Jeff Landry and his wife Sharon here tonight. They are long-term friends of Hardeman and I's, and we're so very proud of them and the work that they've done. They're already doing our state proud. A little bit about Jeff Landry. Jeff Landry's love for our state and his passion for helping others is defined by his Louisiana roots. Jeff grew up in a small town of St. Martinville, where his mother was a school teacher and his parents took him to church every day. He probably needed it. Later, Jeff learned the value of hard work in the sugarcane fields, and then he proudly joined the National Guard serving in Operation Desert Storm. After returning home, Jeff worked as a police officer and a sheriff's deputy, and later started a successful business, and after that he went to law school. And with that successful business is how he met my husband, Hardeman. There's lots of stories there too. As a public servant, both in the U.S. Congress and as the current Attorney General of Louisiana, Jeff Landry has shown strength and courage fighting for common sense values and bringing people together to deliver solutions. Fun fact about Jeff Landry, he had more bipartisan votes while he was in Congress than most of his suite mates and conservatives. So it's a good little tidbit to know about him. Now Jeff Landry is running as the governor of Louisiana because he knows that we deserve a government as good as our people, and we're not getting it. As governor, he will not be afraid to make the changes necessary to turn our state around, deliver results, and fight for working families. Without further ado, my friend Jeff Landry.
Well, that was a good start off. How y'all today? Are y'all ready to change Louisiana? Are y'all? Let me tell you, first thing I want to do is make sure that we recognize a few people. You know, it was once told to me that there was if I knew the difference between a politician and a statesman. And I pondered that for a second and asked the fellow, well, what is that difference? And he told me, he said, that's pretty easy. He said, a politician is always looking for the next vote, but a statesman is always looking towards the next generation. And I want you to know that amongst us today, we have an absolute statesman that I want to make sure that is absolutely recognized. He's a fella who has represented y'all in Congress. He's a fella who has served our military. He's been a doctor and a vet, and so if he can't fix you, nobody can. But I think this gentleman absolutely, I'm going to tell you something. He was one of the first people to call and said, hey, we need to fix this state in this next election. And there's no one that I could tell you you should be more proud of than Ralph Abraham. And of course, Big Hardeman can tell no stories until after the election. It's worth a whole lot more. See, because what a lot of y'all don't realize is I've come in and out of this city many, many times at a much, much earlier age and had a whole lot of fun. And I have enjoyed every bit of the time that I've spent up here. And then when I ran for Attorney General, it was interesting because I'd come up to North Louisiana, and it was the most oddest thing. And they'd say, well, are you going to remember us? And I'm like, well, I don't understand. How can I forget you? You are part of Louisiana. And I didn't realize how much of a sea of difference there was, or seemed to be, between what happened up here and I guess what happened down in Baton Rouge. But I want you to know that stops today. It stops this election cycle. There is no more north or south or east or west. There's one Louisiana. And y'all should be absolutely proud. Look, I can tell you, I got my boss with me, my wife. She's been traveling around. It's amazing what y'all have done to help me. She can move around and repack in 12 hours. It's unbelievable. I mean, we are on the move. But let me tell you why, just real quickly, why this election is so important, why you should feel so good, why you should be so excited, why we have come so far. Number one is that right now around this country, there are people looking for states to move into. In fact, 2 weeks ago, Bloomberg reported that over $100 billion worth of wealth, that's individual wealth. It didn't mean just wealthy people. It could be middle-class people. It could be working people. They uprooted themselves from blue states and went to red states. Guess where they didn't go? They didn't come here. But they went everywhere else in the South. But what that tells us is as people are starting to look for places, we have an opportunity to capture them. And so that's why this is absolutely our time. This is why this is an election under which we haven't seen. Everyone says every election season is important, but the statistics and the facts tell us that this is our opportunity, irrespective of where we are. And you know, it's important for you to understand this. When we announced almost a year ago that we were running for governor, I didn't say I was running. I didn't say me and Sharon were running. I said that we were running. You can look at it. You can see that video way back then. And we have worked, and many of you in this room, many of you inside the Republican Party, heard the call of the problems that we've had over the last few election cycles and before, that the party fighting needed to stop. And we needed to unite behind this party. And they got behind one candidate. And what we have done is been able to bring a campaign about who is going to be your next governor, about the issues and not about the person. And so that is where you are. That's an exciting thing. You should feel good about where we are. We still got a little ways to go. And so I want you to know, I just want to cover a couple of things. And Mister, you make sure I don't go over time, because I will. I can just talk on and on. Y'all got some great important people here that you need to hear from. But let me give you this. This race, like I said, is not about me. It's about you. Where do you want to see Louisiana in 10, in 20 years? Don't you want to beat Mississippi? Because they're beating us now. Don't you think we deserve it? Don't you think that all of the natural resources and all the great people that have worked so hard in this state deserve to be number one? We hold our LSU coaches way more accountable than our politicians in this state. And we can have a championship state too. And you say, well, how do we do it? What's the problem? What's holding us back? Well, it's simply just leadership. And we're going to do three things. Three things that I think if we focus on those three things, if this is the message that we deliver to the people of Louisiana and we stick with that, we will absolutely move this state in an unbelievable direction. There's three things. It's crime. Anybody think we don't have a crime problem in this state? I know I saw the sheriff here earlier. Believe you me, I've spent the last 8 years, him and I got to be real good friends. We do. We've got 3 cities in the top 10 most dangerous cities in the whole country, in a state of 4.5 million people. And we've got to fix that. That tells us we've got a structural problem with our criminal justice system. And we want a system that says that if you're a good person and you make a bad choice, well, you get a second chance. That's absolutely. But if you're a bad person and you continue to do bad things again and again and again, guess what? We got a special place for you, and it's not on our streets. And we're going to create transparency and accountability. We will have the legislature in session, number 1, and we're going to have a crime session. We're going to create transparency and accountability in our criminal justice system, and we're going to get hold of these streets. And then inside of that problem, which goes to the next piece, which is education, is a juvenile crime problem. Okay? Anybody think we don't have a juvenile crime problem? I just want y'all to know y'all are like right on line. It don't matter where you are, Monroe, Houma, Lake Charles, everybody's saying the same thing. But maybe our juvenile crime problem is part of our educational problem. My mother was a school teacher. She taught in the public system. She taught in the private system. She coached women's basketball. No men on her basketball team unless they want to be cheerleaders. That's the truth. And she would tell you that the most important voice in a child's education are parents. And so when we think about going back just real quick on the juvenile crime issue, you realize that if a young person gets inside of the juvenile criminal justice system and ends up in a detention facility, there is very little educational opportunities for them. Now let that sink in. I mean, we're training better criminals. Why is it there's a dollar that's attached to every one of our children? Every one of our children has a price that the state pays, or that the state, we pay it, it's our tax dollars. And the state gives to those school districts to educate our children. Well, those children in those juvenile detention facilities, they deserve that money too. And when we create educational opportunities in there that are run by y'all, not by the state. I mean, like, how many of y'all would let the state of Louisiana raise your child? Again, y'all are right in line with everyone else. I had one lady tell me she might. Then after I talked to her, she understood the question. But when we create educational opportunities in that is the very foundation. Now all of a sudden we're working ahead. We're training people to be better citizens rather than better criminals. And in the educational system, like I said, my mother was a school teacher. Like, it has to be kindergarten all the way through. We have to quit talking about K through 12, trade school, universities. No, it has to be every education should lead to a vocation. I collect all the debt for the state of Louisiana with student loans. It's the most despicable thing I've ever seen. We pile all this debt on these young people with a degree they get no jobs out of. But we can retool our universities. We can make sure that our universities respond to the needs of the community and the business folks, because that's how the economy grows. You see what I'm saying? You just move it one through another, but you got to get to it in high school. So we're going to work on crime. We're going to work on education, and then it's the economy. Now, this is my favorite one. How many times has someone come up to you and said, I'm running for governor, and I am going to bring the greatest businesses to the state of Louisiana you have ever seen. We're going to bring Silicon Valley to Louisiana, which I don't know that I want Silicon Valley in Louisiana. How many times? Come on. Have y'all seen it? That's true. Come on, y'all get engaged. We got an election going on. Look, it's not true. Like I just told you, we got 3 cities in the top 10 most dangerous cities. I just told you our educational system, we got 74% of third graders can't read, 80% of eighth graders can't do basic math. The Bessie board just watered down the LEAP test. Okay? Now we're going to attract somebody, but no. But that doesn't mean all this fails. Doesn't mean we don't want people. We'd take anybody that wants to come. Absolutely. Welcome, Matt. But how about we do something a little unique? How about we concentrate on you? How about we concentrate on the businesses and the industries that built this state? The men and women who have suffered under natural disaster after natural disaster, bad government after bad government, poor regulations, terrible tax codes, and stuck it out. How about we say, what can we do for you? How do we say, look at the great industries that built this state and say, how can we expand those industries through you? Like, how many of you have been in business and had the Louisiana Department of Economic Development call you and say, can we help you? Listen, we fixing to have fun. Going to DMV is going to be like going to Disney World when we're done. Okay? That's the difference. The difference, and let me just share this quick little story with you to show you what we're up against. This good friend of mine, Ben Bordelon, played football at LSU. Bought his uncle's shipyard down in South Louisiana. Decides he's going to expand. Looking for a place. Got a shipyard in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Has an opportunity for him to buy. Now, he's an LSU guy. He loves Louisiana. Boy grew up down the Bayou. He's like, Jeff, I went there because they just got it going on. Great opportunity. So he closes on the shipyard on like a Thursday or Friday. On Monday morning, his phone rings at like 7 o'clock in the morning. He looks at it, it's a 601 area code. Picks it up, he says, hello, the guy in there at the end of the line says, is this Ben, I'm looking for Ben Bordelon. Ben said, well, it's him. He said, well, this is Governor Tate Reeves. Ben says, who's this? Who's this, Paul? I said, no, this is the governor of Mississippi. Ben says, come on. He said, listen, am I in trouble? Because if the governor's calling, I'm normally in trouble. He said, no, Ben. I wanted to call and tell you welcome to Mississippi. I wanted you to know that we appreciate what you did down in Pascagoula. I wanted you to have my personal cell phone. I want you to know that we want you to succeed in Mississippi. He says, that's interesting. He said, but let me tell you, the rest of the day was even more bizarre, even more heartwarming, though. He said, because I get a call from the governor, but then throughout the rest of the day, I had legislators calling from as far away as Oxford. And he said, you know, them boys in Oxford didn't want to call some fellow from LSU, tell them thank you. Now, come on. We are way more, I'm not knocking anybody from Mississippi, but we're way more friendlier than people in Mississippi and Arkansas and Texas anyhow. I believe that. We are so much greater. We deserve so much more out of our government because we do so much for our state, what each and every one of you all have done. So that is what this election is about. Everyone who's going to come here, everyone who's on this ballot, this is our opportunity to start to move this case and break 100 years of tribalism that's been going on in the state and speak with one voice and say, guess what? Louisiana is fixing to take her place. And we don't need much. We just need the government to get out of our way. And we want our government to work for us. And so that is why, look, Sharon, we started early this morning. We're going right back down. I mean, look, it's great going up and down this road. I remember coming up here when it was a 2-lane. Remember that? Tell some of the staff, you see this nice 4-lane? It didn't used to be like this. And let me tell you, real quick, if I had to pick places where there is the greatest economic opportunity in Louisiana, I want you to know it is in north and central Louisiana. I mean that. It's real easy. Like if you go to Alabama and some of those other places, if you blindfolded them and went 40 years, it's the same place. We have opportunities. This is our time. This is our moment to show that we can start. Now look, it's not going to be easy. I want y'all to know that. And of course, we got about, I don't know, how many? 39. She's my counter. She's counting all the way down to the bottom. Let me tell you, we have 39 days. And if we get out there, now let me tell you something. We get out there and we turn everyone who cares about this state, and you tell them to go to the poll, you tell them to vote with us, and then we get to work. I promise you this. I promise you that I will work for you from the day you swear me in to the day you either throw me out or the Constitution does. And I'm going to tell you something. When we do, if we do that, we not only are going to have a government as good as you, but we will put smiles on the faces of everyone in this state, and they're going to say, you know what, living in Louisiana is easy, and inviting people here is the absolutely right thing to do. God bless you. Thank you so very much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. This is our time. Let's go get them. Y'all join us. This is going to be a great movement. Come on, let's go get them. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. That was great. Okay, so let's get the party started. So here's what we're going to do. Statewide official or statewide candidates will get 5 minutes. Locals will get 3 minutes. We're going to start at the top of the program under Lieutenant Governor, and we're going to go straight on through. There will not be any introductions. As we start, just please, and you see the next couple of people file through, please be ready to come up and speak. There will be women with these cards. This is not what you want to see. So on local, you're going to get a 30-second card and you're going to get a 15-second card. On state, you're going to get a 1 minute and a 15-second. That will be right here up front. So we will be timing you. Any questions before we get started? So if we could have the first couple, Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser and Mr. Elbert Guillory. If y'all could front and center. And then we're going to go Secretary of State. We'll hit Mike Francis, Miss Nancy Landry, and Brandon Trostclair. Just kind of get ready and we'll run right down through it.
Well, you know, campaigning can be hard on your body, and, you know, as you can tell, Billy Nungesser has lost about 40 or 50 pounds. Last minute thing, and, you know, a lieutenant governor still has a job to do, and he's still an elected official, and he had to stay where he was at. So he gave me the call, and we won't need any cards. You know, he's been up here many, many times. What he does in this state is focus on one thing, and that is the reputation of this state, not only here, but outside of here. He's talked about trying to make sure that we are a cleaner state. So they are working as hard as they can, and we've got a lot of groups around the state that are trying to make sure that we clean our state up. Because it's hard to invite people home or invite people over to your guests if you don't do what? Clean your house up first. And we need to clean our house up. And I think that's what the Lieutenant Governor is trying to do. And then also trying to focus on our tourism, which is so important. I mean, I think we've had, in Texas, we've gotten right around $500 or $600 million in taxes paid by someone else coming into this state. And we need that kind of a focus on not just the big things, not just like the Super Bowl or something like that, but every community in this state has got something to offer. And the first thing that we've got to offer is our people. The people of this country love to come and fellowship with this state and the people in this state, and our greatest asset are our people. And what the Lieutenant Governor wants to do is continue to focus on small things that each community is doing. And if it's a parade in Eunice, or a parade in Farmerville, or something going on, fishing or whatever else it needs to be, he's going to be there and trying to focus on those kind of things. And that's what he's done for the last 8 years. You know his process, you know his projects, and you know his focus on this state. And I hope that you will re-elect our Lieutenant Governor, Billy Duncan. Fellow Senator.
Good evening. It is great to be here with you. There are three kinds of people you should never let get near a microphone: politicians, preachers, and lawyers. And I am all three. But don't worry, David has me tightly scripted, so I'll be within my 5-minute time limit. I'm glad to be here tonight. It's important for you to see me and hear me, and it's important for me to see you and hear you. My fellow Louisianans, the big question tonight is, what do we want? What do we want as a state? What do we want for Louisiana? We have sat back and let violent criminals rule our streets, overrun our streets and communities, overrun with violent criminals, overrun with carjackers, rapists, burglars, murderers. 3 of Louisiana's cities on America's top 10 most dangerous. Is that what we want for Louisiana? Is it? 2/3 of Louisiana's children cannot read at grade level. Many of them cannot read at all. Many of our high schools produce more drug dealers, dropouts, and single mothers than they produce doctors, lawyers, and engineers. We can't be satisfied with that. We must want more. We are at the crossroads. We must make a choice. The choice is simple: more of the same or new leadership, a new direction. More pothole highways, more wars on our gas and oil and the jobs that they produce, more foreign doctors, foreign nurses, foreign engineers, because our rotten schools don't produce our own. The choice is ours. The choice is yours. We have to decide what we want, what kind of Louisiana we want for our children, our grandchildren, and our old folks too. I have decided what I want. I want to be Lieutenant Governor. I want to lead Louisiana in a new direction. First, with respect to tourism, I'm going to stop just selling New Orleans. The crime is driving people away from New Orleans and therefore away from Louisiana. For the first time in years, tourism is down. So let's do something different. I want to sell the wonders of my beautiful Louisiana, the joys of Louisiana, North Louisiana's absolute beauty, the rolling hills, Central Louisiana, Cajun country. Let's sell all of it, because Louisiana truly is a wonderful and beautiful place. I was born and reared in Louisiana. I plan to die in Louisiana. I mean, it's home, and I love it. Second, I'm a warrior. Look at my record as a civil rights warrior. I still have the scars to show you what life was like in those days. Look at my record as a Rutgers law professor. Look at my record as a top manager of agencies in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Seattle. Look at my record as a change agent with the administration of President Richard Nixon in Washington, D.C. Look at my proud record as a Louisiana legislator. Bold, new leadership, a new direction. We have to make a change. As Lieutenant Governor, I will have a legislative staff. I will draft new laws. I'll submit solutions to the real problems that affect the lives of Louisianans, like our reentry program. If you haven't taken a look at it, please do. I wrote it, I drafted it, I passed it through the legislature. It has reduced recidivism and has had a major positive financial impact on our budget over the years. I will be fully involved. I will be a 100% warrior for Louisiana. And I have the coconuts to do this job.
Mike Francis, I've got my timer set. I'm running for Secretary of State. When I get this close to Gina, I feel like I'm at home. I was born and raised in Gina, Louisiana. Graduated from high school, 17 years old. No job, no car, and I packed a bag and hitchhiked to Morgan City, Louisiana. Got a job on an offshore drilling rig as a roustabout, 17 years old that summer. That fall, I came back to Monroe and enrolled in Northeast, ULM now. I lived in a dormitory that's sitting right about here at Bonaire Hall, which has been torn down. It was the only building across the Bayou at that time. And after I finished my education, got back in the oil and gas industry. Worked in several different jobs. When I was 30 years old, I started my own business. One truck, one driver. The truck was mine, and I was the driver. I lived a wonderful life in business. I'm so thankful for all God's blessings, all the hard work that people did working for me, and all the prayers that were answered. When I sold my business, I peaked out at 486 employees. Did $100 million in business in my best year. Had over 200 18-wheelers. We worked in every oil-producing state in America, Mexico, Canada. It was quite a dream. About midway through there, in my 40s, I started complaining and griping about politics. Decided I'd get involved with the Republican Party, do something about it. I ran for the State Central Committee, and I was elected there. That's almost 30 years ago. And I met one of y'all's friends here, Miss Kay Katz. We started out together there, and I was invited to get on the executive committee as the state finance chairman, not knowing at the time that nobody wanted that job. Bill Clinton had just been elected president. Edwin Edwards was in his last term as governor. We had one statewide official, Fox McKithen. We had 6 state senators out of 39. We had 18 House members out of 105. And I tell you what, it was hard to find an enthusiastic Republican in the state of Louisiana. But we worked hard, okay? Many of us, there's several in here, that we raised double the money the first year I was chairman of the finance. Second year, we doubled it again. And a few people said, Francis, you need to be the chairman of the party. And I said, well, y'all gotta be kidding. I don't know how to do that. They said, well, let us elect you and let's see you try to do it. We elected Mike Foster as governor my first year. Tommy Casanova was one of our senators. We went from 6 senators to 14 that first year. It was a revolution that was started. I'm so proud to be a part of that. The LFRW was a key element in doing that. And Doris Shannon was the head of the LFRW at that time, a wonderful lady. And today, ladies, you are the rock of this. You are so stable in what we do. Any of these candidates who are running now, they're going to come talk to you and they want your advice and your leadership. Now, those are two of the credentials that qualified me to be Secretary of State. The other credential is in 2016, I ran for Public Service Commission, and I won a seat in Southwest Louisiana, 17 parishes, 1 million people. It's the largest PSC district. I served 6 years as your Public Service Commissioner. I served 2 years as Vice Chairman and 2 years as Chairman. Last November, I was re-elected to another 6-year term. I got 60% of the vote in 17 parishes. I think that is proof of what those people said about Mike Francis. He knows how to lead and he knows how to work. In business and in politics, and in public service, and most of all, leading this wonderful Republican Party that we have. Now, let me close by saying this. A lot of people ask me, because I have a great business career, had most everything that I'd ever dreamed of, and in my prayers and as I seek the Lord's guidance, people say, well, why do you do that, Mike? I'm here to serve my God and my country first. At my age and what I'm doing, I would love to go down and make sure our vote is safe and secure. The clerks of court and the registers of voters are the ones who caused me to get into this race, encouraging me several months ago. And if you'll talk to any one of those about some of the ideas that have come out of the Secretary of State's office, they were disappointed and they didn't agree with what's going on in that house, and they wanted a new leader. I got in, and 3 weeks later, the Secretary of State's out. He's not running again. And some of his staff are still there. They need to go too. So my time's up. I've got to ask you to remember 3 words, folks. 3 words. I like Mike. I like Mike. I like Mike.
Hi, I'm Nancy Landry, and I'm running for Secretary of State. And just a little background information for those of you who don't know me. I grew up in Lafayette. I graduated from LSU and LSU Law School, and I had an award-winning small business in Lafayette for some time before I decided to run for the Louisiana legislature. I served 3 terms in the legislature as a state representative representing Lafayette and Vermilion parishes. And at the end of my 3rd term, Secretary Ardoin appointed me to be the first Assistant Secretary of State, which is the 2nd in command at the Secretary of State's office. So I've been in that position for the past 4 years, so I've actually been conducting and administering elections for the past 4 years. And I'm the only candidate in the race who has experience conducting a statewide election. I'm running for Secretary of State because I want us to be #1 in the nation in election integrity. We're not often at the top of good lists in Louisiana, but when it comes to election integrity, we have a lot to be proud of. The Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank, has ranked us #6 in the nation in election integrity. And the Electoral Integrity Project has ranked us 1st in the South. And the Louisiana Legislative Auditor gave us high marks for our election integrity policies and procedures in an audit that they did after the 2020 presidential election. So we do elections well in Louisiana, but I think we can do them even better, and I want us to be #1 in the nation, and I have a plan to get us there. My #1 priority as Secretary of State will be to get us a new voting system. Our current voting system is 30 years old, and we really need to replace it. And the system that I'd like to see us replace it with is one that has the technology that we're used to, the speed, accuracy, and efficiency that we're used to with the machines, and we'll still get our results on election night. But it would also have a paper backup. And that paper backup can be used for the voter to verify the accuracy of their vote before casting their vote. And then our office could use that paper backup to conduct a post-election audit. That's best practices in most states now, and I believe that if we just make that one improvement, that we'll be #1 in the nation in election integrity. But I also have plans to do other things. I would like us to ban the use of private funding for elections. We've worked with the legislature the past 3 years to pass legislation to do that. Unfortunately, the first 2 years, that legislation was vetoed. So this year, I had the idea to do it as a constitutional amendment, and Representative Blake Miguez agreed to do that. So I'm happy to say that you'll see constitutional amendment #1 on your ballot this fall is a constitutional amendment to ban the private funding of elections. And I urge all of you to vote yes on that, because election officials should never accept private funding from individuals or organizations unless that funding has been through the legislative process and been appropriated in a nonpartisan way. And I also want to clean up our voter rolls. We have tools to clean up our voter rolls. We do an annual canvass, but we ask the legislature to give us even more tools so we can verify even more voters on our voter rolls. And 3 years in a row, Representative Les Farnham passed that bill, and 3 years in a row, Governor Edwards vetoed it. And unfortunately, in the last veto override session, the House leadership did not make it a priority to override the veto on that particular piece of legislation. So it's didn't pass yet, but we feel confident that with a new Republican governor, that legislation will get passed and signed into law. And as Secretary of State, I'll continue to work to clean up our voter rolls so we can have cleaner and more accurate voter rolls. So the one thing I want to leave you with today, though, is that the presidential election, the 2024 presidential election, is right around the corner. And we just can't afford to have a Secretary of State who needs on-the-job training. I'll be ready from day one. I'll be ready for the presidential preference primary, which is in March of 2024, just 2 months after the new secretary takes office. And I have a proven record. During my time in the legislature, I was recognized by pro-business groups like Lobby and NFIB and the Louisiana Family Forum for my solid conservative voting record. As chairman of the House Education Committee, I fought hard for parental choice in schools and stood up to powerful special interest groups. I earned a reputation as a social and fiscal conservative who's not afraid to stand up for what I believe in. And I stood strong against John Bel Edwards' tax and spend policies. So I'm the right person for the job. I'm the only person with the experience and qualifications to take this agency to the next level. So I'm asking for your support and your vote. Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it.
How y'all doing tonight? Sure is good to be in North Louisiana. This is our 16th time coming up to North Louisiana, and it's always good to be up here. My name is Brandon Trosclair. I'm a business guy from Gonzales, Louisiana, just south of Baton Rouge. I have grocery stores all across South Louisiana and Mississippi. I have one of the top 50 largest companies in the Baton Rouge metropolitan area. I serve on the State Central Committee. I also serve on our local RPEC. I'm on the board for the Louisiana Family Forum and also on the Government Relations Board for the Louisiana Retailers Association. 2 years ago, when President Biden's massive government overreaching vaccine mandate, when he came after your businesses and your jobs, I was the guy that stood up to Joe Biden. I thought I'd be one of tens of thousands. I ended up being the first of only 6 people across the country to stand up and say that our government, this is a massive government overreach, and Joe Biden doesn't belong in my business, and I don't belong in the medical decisions of my employees. I firmly believe that that's between their family and their doctor, not Brandon Trosclair. So we were the first of 6 people to file suit in that vaccine mandate. We quickly won in the 5th Circuit and overturned that vaccine mandate. We fought ourselves all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and we won. And thank you. It's estimated that we saved over 80 million jobs across the United States, and it was an honor of a lifetime to not only stand up for my businesses, and my employees, but stand up for the United States worker. It was an honor of a lifetime to do that. I'm running for Secretary of State not only to make Louisiana a better state for my children, my 2 beautiful, beautiful children, but I'm running for Secretary of State because no elected official in the state of Louisiana is doing anything about our awful elections. I firmly believe that we have awful elections here in Louisiana, and I'll tell you why. You're going to hear my opponent say that the Heritage Foundation says that we have the 6th best elections in the country. And that's what the Heritage Foundation says. But what it also says on that call-in survey is that our overall score was a 75. That's unacceptable to me, folks. It should be unacceptable to you as well. It also says that we have an F in the accuracy of our voter rolls. An F in the accuracy of our voter rolls. Over 700,000 people in Louisiana are inactive and ineligible in our voter rolls. 1 in 5 people in Louisiana. That survey also says that we have an F in proof of citizenship. An F in proof of citizenship. We have an F in voter ID here in Louisiana. That's unacceptable, folks. Our Louisiana Legislative Audit Report, if you just scroll to the 5th page, It says Louisiana doesn't audit our elections, nor do we even have the ability to audit our elections. That's unacceptable. I'll go further. Do y'all know that Louisiana is the only state in the country that we can't audit our elections? The only state in the country who can't audit our elections. So what we have here is we outsource our registration to a third-party vendor, giving us an F in accuracy of our voter rolls. We outsource the counting of our votes to a proprietary software, and then we have the only elections in the country that you can't audit our elections. The people of Louisiana deserve better than that. We deserve better than that. That's the bad news. The good news is there's one candidate in this race, that acknowledges that the problems that we have and gives solutions to fix those problems and has the courage to back it up and get it done. What are the solutions to those problems? We're going to get rid of these machines. We're going to give you a hand-marked secure paper ballot, just like the Louisiana Voting Commission voted for and passed ultimately in Act 480. We're going to clean up our registration like Title 18 gives us the authority to. We're going to clean up our registration and we're going to keep it clean. And for the first time in decades and decades and decades, within 24 hours, you'll have an image of every single ballot cast in the state of Louisiana on the Secretary of State's website, and you will be able to audit your elections for the first time in a very, very long time. 68% of the United States, that's 53% of Democrat and 78% of Republicans, does not trust our election process. Why is that? Because there's no accountability and no transparency. You have one candidate in this race, one candidate that's given solutions to fix our problems with our elections. I think the people of Louisiana deserve elections as good as the people of Louisiana. You can go to letsgobrandon.net. Of course, that's a good Cajun way, G-E-A-U-X, letsgobrandon.net, and you can learn more about our campaign and follow us and talk about all the issues that we have on there. But I appreciate y'all time, and like I said, it's always good to be in North Louisiana. Thank y'all.
Came off in my hand. My name is John Fleming. I'm running for Louisiana State Treasurer. It's great to be with you this evening. Many of you I'm becoming reacquainted with, and I really just enjoy connecting with folks. So I think the best predictor of the future is past performance. So let's look at that. I grew up in a working class home. I sat around the table with my parents trying to decide which bill to pay first and how we got through them. So we put our money together, and I was ready to go to college when I was a senior in high school, and my dad died suddenly of a heart attack at age 43, just before I left, leaving my disabled mother, and older brother, and sister. So, but we got to work on it. God blessed us, and we found a way. I worked my way through school, work, studied, working in the summertime to do it. It was very character building, but I learned how to problem solve in that process. So after college, I was admitted into medical school, something that I wanted to do since I was 10 years old. And after medical school, I joined the United States Navy, and I was a Navy medical officer. I had the privilege of delivering babies on Guam in the middle of a hurricane. That was a lot of fun, it really was. So, but I found out that the Navy will not issue you a wife, you have to find her yourself. So I found a pretty little brunette on the ward at the VA hospital, married her, and we've been married for 45 years, and we have 4 kids and 5 grandchildren. We're very blessed with that. Thank you. So I heard about this little town, Minden, Louisiana. Have you ever heard of it? So I wanted to finish my 6 years in the Navy, start a medical practice in a small town in North Louisiana, Minden. And we did that in 1982, and it was quite successful almost instantly. But along about the mid and late 80s, I became interested in being an entrepreneur. So I opened the first Subway store in North Louisiana. We built up to 35 ultimately. And if you've ever eaten at Subway in Monroe, West Monroe, chances are you ate at one of our shops. So thank you very much for that. And I know you're healthier for it. We also built up other businesses in real estate, but I learned a lot about how the economy works. In 2008, I had the opportunity to run for Congress as I was very concerned about the future of our nation, and I was elected and served 8 years. But you know what? I wasn't just concerned about Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi. I was concerned about some of our leadership as well. As a result of that, 9 of us came together and we created the House Freedom Caucus. Have you ever heard of it? Okay, Ron DeSantis, Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows are among the founders of the House Freedom Caucus. And they did a lot of good work, and they're doing great work today, and we've actually brought them to Louisiana. And you'll hear much more about them. So after my 8 years in Congress, I had the opportunity to serve under President Trump. He appointed me to be Deputy Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services. I did that for 2 years. Then he appointed me to lead the Economic Development Administration. And I did that for a while, and then he pulled me over into the west wing of the White House, where I served as Deputy Chief of Staff, alongside Jared Kushner and Mark Meadows. And the Oval Office was 20 steps down the hallway. Now, that was a fantastic opportunity, but I also served on the Coronavirus Task Force, and guess with who? Dr. Fauci, of course. Wake up, folks. So I heard Dr. Fauci say that when asked, we don't need masks, they don't work. And then a week later, he says, not only do you need 1 mask, you need 2. So I'm running for treasurer because I think that this state is ready for a turnaround. You heard Jeff Landry talk about a new future for Louisiana, and I agree with you. Challenges up front for the treasurer are going to be dealing with ESG and all the woke stuff that's already coming our way. The debanking of religious organizations, as well as those who sell or trade firearms legally. And also we've got coming our way the central bank digital currency, which could mean that the IRS can look directly into your day-to-day transactions. So you need someone like me to help protect you from that. And I want to work with you for the future of Louisiana, turn this economy around, and let's catch up with the rest of the South. Thank you, and God bless.
Good evening, everybody. I think that I've got the opportunity to meet a lot of you over the past 15 months of me traveling the state. Particularly this last week, I spent the majority of the last week up in this area between Rushton and Shoudrent. I got to tour ULM, over to Grambling, and to Louisiana Tech. So being up in North Louisiana has been wonderful. So my name is Scott McKnight. I'm State Representative of District 68, which is dead center of Baton Rouge, where I live with my wife of 17 years, Elizabeth, and our 3 wonderful children. So I've been in the financial services industry for the past 25 years. I'm currently Vice President and Director of Business Development for Cadence Insurance. So while I grew up in Baton Rouge, some of my most favorite childhood memories actually come from just southeast of here. So my mom's side of the family is from Tallulah, and I spent my summers down in Tensall Parish on Lake Bruin and had a great time running the roads around St. Joe and on the lake. And this area is one of my favorite parts of the state. So being able to come back up here quite frequently over the past 14 months has been wonderful. So part of growing up in that wonderful family is my family taught me to give back to my community, to serve. And if you are not willing to give back and do something for your community, you can't complain about the problems that are there if you're not going to do something about it. So it is what drove me to serve my community. I spent many hours and days in many, many nonprofits, whether from companion animals to coastal conservation, some of our favorite Ducks Unlimited, all that kind of stuff. But the one that really is closest to my heart was the decade I spent as an East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Deputy, as a reserve deputy. For 10 years, I put on a uniform and patrolled the streets of Baton Rouge. I got time to do that, spend time training our deputies in our training division, and I ended my career at the Sheriff's Office assisting our detectives in human trafficking and internet crimes against children, which is a huge problem that does not get enough attention in our state. So that drive to serve sent me there. It sent me to also run for state representative, where I've been at a state rep for the last 4 years in Baton Rouge, tackling everything that got thrown at us the past 4 years. I think you can imagine that what we saw with just about everything, from the storms that hit us to COVID to everything else, has been a problem. And we worked very well with y'all's local delegation to get some great things going on and come up with some solutions. So that drive to serve is now driving me to run for treasurer. It was about 15 months ago when I heard that Treasurer Schroeder was moving on and taking a shot at running for governor. It was at that time I said, you know what, my 25 years in the financial services industry and my time in the legislature has uniquely qualified me to go be able to step into that job. The great thing is that the next treasurer is walking into a very well-functioning office. Treasurer Schroeder has done a fantastic job. We know about the ESGs and what he did. He moved close to $1 billion away from BlackRock. Look, Louisiana is an oil and gas state, it's a timber state, it's an agricultural state, and all of that ESG works against those factors for our economy. We've heard about digital currency, whether that's crypto, which is the private market, or central bank digital currency. That's an issue that we're going to be fighting. Activist corporations. So those are things you generally hear about the treasurer's office. But what you don't generally hear is how the treasurer can work with our other statewide elected officials, our next conservative governor, our next attorney general, our next insurance commissioner, who have already been meeting with. Because we have an insurance crisis all over this state. Auto insurance, home insurance, business insurance. And what it's doing is driving businesses and people out of the state of Louisiana. It's a time that we start coming up with new solutions to these problems that we have. Again, I've already started working with Tim Temple to come up with solutions on how we can use the state's assets, the treasury assets, in order to start working towards those solutions, creating reinsurance capacity that will drive insurance companies here to solve those problems. So look, I'm ready to pick up the ball that Schroeder's leaving right now on the field and take it the rest of the way down the field. My 25 years in the financial services industry, my time in the legislature uniquely qualified me for this. I'm not running because I'm bored. I'm not running because I'm term limited. I'm running because I know I can do this job. I'm running for the future of Louisiana, not position myself for something else. I want the job that I'm running for, and I promise to serve my entire term when I win. Thank you.
My name is Marty Bailey. I'm running for Attorney General. I think they call this a God wink when the minister uses the scripture that I was planning on giving y'all in his prayer. Man, I'll tell you what, I love 2 Chronicles chapter 7:14. What a blessing. And I'm going to tell you this, it's also, I'd like to just play that tape back because about 75% of what Jeff told you about crime is what I intend to do as your next Attorney General. It is on everybody's mind. Look, you got 3 fine Republican candidates. Ms. Muriel, she's going to get up here and speak to you in a minute. Mr. Stefanski, and myself. 3 fine Republican candidates to choose from. Our resumes are a little bit different, and I'm going to spend the time that I have distinguishing myself from them. 28-year career prosecutor. 28 years I served. A lot of people in jail because of Marty Bailey, I promise you. Had the pleasure of and the horror of participating in 2 serial killer cases. I have one on death row. I've got multiple people in Angola behind 1st and 2nd degree murder cases. I paid my dues. I did what was necessary for the DAs that I worked for across the state for a long time to keep you safe. But I also understood, just like Jeff understands, that we got to start with the young ones and fix the system, or we're going to have a rinse and repeat problem, recidivism, over and over and over again. That's the real dilemma for the sheriffs and the DAs. It's not going to work every day and solving crimes and giving it over to the DA and doing what you got to do to prosecute them and put them in jail. That's not the problem. The problem is, how are we fixing the ones that are in jail that can be salvaged? That's the problem. And that keeps you from having the situation where you feel like you're drinking from a fire hydrant. 150, 200 people on my docket every month. It was crazy, y'all. And that's what you got with every single ADA across the state. Every one of them. Look, I ran an early intervention program for my DA in West Baton Rouge, Point to be in Everville. And we took the kindergarten through 5th grade kids. And all the truancy problems and all the behavioral problems and all the situations where they were steering off track, we used the DA's influence to pull them back on track. Great program. I promise you, the DAs are not territorial about that program. They will let me, as Attorney General, assist them to make that a statewide program. The juvenile justice system has two towers. One that deals with, meting out justice, putting them in their detention facilities, and the other side deals with mental health. It's time that we stop duplicating services. It's time that we tear the juvenile justice system down, build it back up as one tower, and reinvest those resources in programs that make sense. It's also time that we walk and chew gum. We got to put the bad ones where they belong, just like Jeff said, he understands, and we've got to take the other 85% of them that take a plea or go in for a short period of time. We got to get them back on track. We got to invest in their lives. And look, I'm vice president of the largest victims group in the state. You're not going to find a better champion for victims' rights than me. I helped write the constitutional amendment for the victims' rights. I helped write the enabling legislation, and I shepherded it through the legislature. But the victims have to understand as well. If we don't fix this revolving door, then we're going to run out of resources. I know I only have a little bit of time left. I anchor in North Louisiana and South Louisiana. I went to Mandeville High School in Mandeville, but my family's from Natchitoches. I went to Northwestern. I played football there. My cousin's a DA. The older brother's a judge. I've got lots of roots, 6 generations in Natchitoches, Louisiana. I've been in North Louisiana most of my life. I can talk without moving my lips if I have to. Thank y'all for the opportunity to come before you. And I would be honored to have your vote and your consideration. I appreciate you. Thank you. Oh, look, I'd be remiss while Liz is walking up here, I'd be remiss if I didn't give you this great lawyer joke. Santa Claus, a tooth fairy, an honest lawyer, and an old drunk. Walking down the street together, and they simultaneously spot a $100 bill. Who gets it? Who gets the $100 bill? The old drunk, of course, the other 3 are fantasy creatures.
Hey.
Thank you, Liz.
Hey, I'm Liz Merle. I am running for Attorney General as well. I've worked with Jeff Landry for the last 8 years. And I've been up here quite a bit too because I have entrusted some of our most precious assets to Monroe and to Ruston. My nephew goes to ULM Monroe and my son goes to Louisiana Tech, my youngest son. So I'm a wife, I've been married for over 30 years. I'm a mom of 4 children. My oldest son just recently turned 30 and my youngest son will just be turning 20 in October. One of the reasons why I'm running for Attorney General is because I want to fight and continue the fight that I've been carrying for our state with Jeff since he got elected to the Attorney General's office. So what do we fight for? We fight for life. And when we fight for life, that means we're fighting for public safety and we're fighting for the unborn. And I've done both of those things in the United States Supreme Court. I've done that in the state courts, I've done it in the Louisiana Supreme Court, and I've done it in the United States Supreme Court, and I'll keep doing it as your Attorney General. I've worked with the DAs in over 250 cases, just in the United States Supreme Court, to keep people in prison where they belong. Because it doesn't just stop after we get a conviction, it carries on for years and years and years, where we have to fight to keep those people in jail. And so I've worked with our DAs to do that. I have fought for the unborn relentlessly. We have brought a fight to the courts like no one has ever brought before us to fight for the unborn, and that's why when Jeff first came in, I acquired 5 cases in federal court trying to take down all of the laws, every single one of them, that protected the unborn. And today I'm proud to tell you that even before we managed to get Roe versus Wade overturned, we had no more lawsuits against the state of Louisiana. And that's because we fought doggedly for the unborn, and we fought doggedly, and I will continue to fight that fight to protect life as from conception. I have fought for liberty. So I have fought the vaccine mandates, every single one of them. We fought those in the United States Supreme Court. I have fought against all of the energy policies that the Biden administration has brought to attack jobs in our economy. And I've fought the open border policies that are allowing drugs and criminals to come across the open border, all of which is part of our fight against federal overreach. I will continue that fight as your Attorney General. But what I believe that I have is fight in my soul. I bring it to everything that I do in the Attorney General's office. I never stop fighting, and that's why my motto is this: you can't win if you don't fight. We have lost every fight that we did not have. We lost it because we didn't even try. And we can't know what the outcome will be, but we know that if we have the right person who has the experience and the wisdom and the fight to bring that battle, that we have won when we started, because we knew what fight to pick and we brought that fight. And that's what I bring to the Attorney General's office now, and that's what I will continue to bring to the Attorney General's office if you elect me Attorney General. So you don't have to guess what I'll do when I'm your Attorney General. I'm doing it now, and I'll keep doing it when I'm your Attorney General, and I hope that you will support me.
Good evening. I was very confused for just a moment there. Before I start, I would like to thank the Republican Parish Executive Committee of Ouachita for posting this. Thank you so much. Also, the wonderful music by Clara McBroom. Thank you so much for that. And all the hard work of everybody that has been here tonight, early today, putting this event on for multiple days. Thank you so much. I would be remiss without thanking my sweetheart wife, Kelly, who's with me tonight. Without her permission, I would not be on this adventure to run for the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. I would also like to thank Dylan, my son, Mary Linda McCann, a good friend of mine up here in Monroe, Mr. Gene Ford, a retired assistant principal from West Monroe High School, Mr. Darren and Mrs. Leanne Ford for being here with us tonight and providing tremendous support. Who is Toby Brazel? Who am I? I'm a young man that grew up on Cane River, south of Natchitoches, on a cattle ranch. I don't know how old I was when I started riding horses. Graduated high school from Clutcheville High School. Went on to Northwestern State University. Graduated with a degree in business finance and a general studies aviation degree. My dream was to go become a Delta airline pilot. When I graduated Northwestern, Eastern Airlines out of Miami went bankrupt and 5,000 jet jockeys went looking for a job. So never mind about that idea. I'm a commercial instrument rated pilot though, still to this day. So because of my finance degree, I ended up going into the financial services industry as an investment advisor. Been in that business for 26 years. It's been very good to me and my family. My wife Kelly and I are unique. Some people call us the tribe. because we had 8 kids between us. We have 5 adopted children, fostered and adopted, 3 international adoptions, a private adoption. My family is multiracial and multinational. We have kids that have been homeschooled, lab school, public school. We have children all the way from 7th grade to those that have just completed their master's degree at LSU with public administration. I am running for District 5 Bessie to serve a very large district with the most wonderful people you could ever meet in America. I will work to provide transparency related to accountability for teachers, students, and parents. Our teachers and administrators are people who deserve respect because they give their time and their personal resources to support our kids, and we must support them. Early childhood education is the key to the future of this great state. We must become the best in the nation regarding early childhood education. Parents, as a parent, you deserve the right to make decisions concerning your child's education. We need to continue to foster the growth in our community college system because our workers are needed in this state. We have great young ladies and young men that can do great things in our state, and we need to continue to develop that relationship between our schools and our community college system, as well as enhancing our 4-year institutions. I've never served in public office. I've never run for election. I'm a business owner and I'm a dad with kids in school. I'm you. But I have a passion for these kids, a passion for my state, and a passion for my kids and my grandkids to come. You allow me to serve, I will get up every day and I will go to work to be the best I can be for you, your children, and your grandchildren. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless Louisiana.
Good evening, and it's great to be here. Thank y'all for having this. My name is Lance Harris. I'm going to try to get through in 5 minutes, but I have to warn you, both my granddaddies were Southern Baptist preachers, and we were raised not to look at the clock too much, but I'll do it tonight for sure. But if that doesn't work, somebody make that food a whiff of that, and I'll quit real quick and get busy. But most of y'all know me. A lot of people know me. I'm Lance Harris. I've served in the legislature the last 12 years. Of those 12 years, 11 of those years I was in leadership. 7 years as the Republican majority leader in the House. That was my freshman year, 3 years, and the 4 years under the first 4 years of John Bell Edwards. And I must tell you, I'm only 30 years old, but that 4 years put this gray hair on my head, I promise you. Also in the legislature, I've been on several committees, appropriations. I've served in very many different capacities. I've been chairman of the retirement system. I was on all the boards of the retirement system, but I've been chairman of the retirement committee. And now I currently serve and have been serving as chairman of the House Education Committee. And folks, let me tell you, we've got some work to do in Louisiana. We've done some good work. But I have to tell you, we are on the cusp right now. We have the opportunity to make great changes to the state of Louisiana's education system. Think about it. We got a new governor coming in. We have a third of the legislature is going to be new. We have a brand new Bessie board. We have an opportunity to affect the education of our kids like never before. And we need to make sure the right people with the right experience are in place to make that happen. You know, as I served in the legislature as chairman of the Education Committee, I can tell you it's not easy when you deal with education. It is a tough job. You have to have thick skin and you've got to have a backbone. You know why? Because there's people in America today that think they know better what should go into your child's head than you do as the parent. Have you seen it every day? Have you seen it on the news? Have you seen the problems that we're experiencing as citizens of America when the woke people try to force their agenda down on our children. We have to have people in the boards, we have to have people in the legislature that will stand up to this movement and stop it dead in its tracks. You know, the speaker appointed me as education chairman 2.5 years ago, whatever it was. I went through my first session. I went through those meetings. We were fighting things that I never thought I would be fighting for in the legislature in Louisiana, being there 12 years. Unbelievable things, very difficult times. I told the speaker, I said, look, one thing you should have done when you asked me to take this job, because I've been doing educational stuff in the legislature since the beginning, I said you should have put some bars on the window of my office. 8th floor, corner office of the Capitol. He said, why do you need bars on your office? Nobody can get in. I said, hell, I need those bars so I don't jump out. This is a tough job. It's something that is very difficult because things come at you from all directions. We're at a place in Louisiana where we can make a huge difference. You know, one of the things that we did, and we've got to be proactive when we're talking about students and what goes into their learning process. I teamed with Cade Brumley, our superintendent of education, last year. We passed an awesome bill. It's called Freedom Week in Louisiana Public Schools. We have our first Freedom Week this month in September. What does that entail? Every public school system will take a week and they will see what makes and see what happens and learn what happens to make America exceptional. They will learn about free enterprise, about our form of government, what made us a great country. Those are the things we have to do as a Bessie member, as well as legislatures. I would like to also mention that I have a meet and greet next Tuesday up here in Monroe. Brother Eccles, Representative Eccles, sits behind me on the floor. He is kind enough with Senator Jay Morris at Jay Morris's house to have a meet and greet. I invite y'all next Tuesday to come by so I can tell you more about what needs to happen on the Bessie board. But remember this, we are on the cusp of having great things happen in Louisiana to our educational system. But you need somebody with experience, with the backbone, with the record to make good things happen for our kids and make sure they get a quality education with the basics and not all the other stuff that's being forced on them. So remember me, Lance Harris, electlance.com, and love Lance, love Lance, love Lance. There you go, Mike. Thank you.
Just for everybody, now we're going down to 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Thought Stewart jumped up here, and I thought I was up here at the wrong time. My name's Mark Michaud. I'm the Chief Deputy at the Ouachita Parish Sheriff's Office. I've been employed there for 34 years. We do have some more information over here on the table for you. Since I only have 3 minutes, I'm going to get started. I appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you today, and I'll be brief so I don't take up too much of your time. I know that I'm truly blessed to work for the Ouachita Parish Sheriff's Office. I know that now. After all this time, it's a different organization. It's a different culture there than other organizations and other police agencies. The deputies have what I would consider to be a servant's heart, or definitely a service above self. And it's blessed me tremendously over all that time to work with men and women of that caliber. In 2008, I was promoted over the Communications and Computer Services divisions of the Sheriff's Office. And it was at that time that I realized that things were changing. And they were changing fast, and technology was going to play a big role. So I've kept that with me the entire time. In 2011, the newly elected Sheriff Jay Russell appointed me Chief Deputy, which was second in command of the Sheriff's Office. And as Chief, I was tasked with overseeing the operations and day-to-day operations and administration of the Sheriff's Office for the over 400 employees that we have. That position was not a political appointment. You know, it's based on your experience, training, and performance. We all know what happens in Washington, D.C. when they do appoint a political employee to run an agency. It can be a complete disaster. So much has changed in the past few years. The good news is that we have been able to keep up with technology and training in the world we live in today. Some of the technology advancements I'll give you, but I'm going to be brief, are an automated fingerprint identification system, ballistic IQ. It's kind of a rapid way to check the shell casings at the scene of a crime so we can match them to weapons whether they've been used before. We have facial recognition now, so we can use that for Ring doorbell cameras, surveillance cameras, help us identify someone rapidly. And we just received some funding for a rapid DNA machine, and I think that's going to really be a game changer in law enforcement. It's going to enable us at the sheriff's office to run rapid DNA comparisons against burglary suspects, homicide suspects, and other crimes, so we can get faster results and help us find the person responsible. We also have included body cameras at the sheriff's office, and the deputies feel like that's another witness for them as they go out and perform their duties. And so we do support our deputies. We're going to continue to support them in the mission of going out and catching these bad guys, and know that that is the mission, and we will be there with them the entire time. Because of this record, I can say we have one of the best sheriff's offices in the state. I will publicly commit to continue to maintain a record of performance that you'll be proud of as we train and equip our deputies with the best equipment and technology possible to help protect the communities we serve. Today I ask you for your support as we campaign for the sheriff of Ouachita Parish, and ask you to vote for us when you go to the polls. Thank you.
I'd have to put this down. Can y'all hear me? Hi, I'm so excited to be here, and I want to thank RPEC for the invitation. I am Sabrina Racer, and I'm running for Ouachita Parish Clerk of Court. I have been a Republican since the Reagan years, and I am looking forward to getting my vision and message across. I have a table in the back, so I'm not going to waste too much time because I know there's other candidates here. Like Jeff Landry said, I picked up on this. Government works for the people. And that is what I'm looking forward to doing with our Ouachita Parish Clerk's office. I am excited to be here. I am the only Republican in the race, and I am looking forward to running for the citizens of Ouachita Parish. Thank you again for having me. And like I said, my table is in the back. Thank you.
Thank you. Marty Maley up here quoting scripture got me thinking about my favorite one. It's Ecclesiastes 10:2. For those of y'all that don't know what it just says that the heart of the wise leans to the right. And so I felt that was appropriate here in this setting. I am Senator Stewart Cathy, represent Senate District 33. Not only am I the senator for District 33, I also chair the Senate Ag Committee, which deals with everything from row crops to forestry to rural development, and it's been an honor to represent you and your interest chairing that committee. Along with that, this year we recreated the North Louisiana delegation. What that delegation does is it's a group of members from North Louisiana to make sure that we shift the focus from South Louisiana to North Louisiana. And I'm proud to say that as the co-chair of that, we have seen record investment in North Louisiana over the last 4 years. Senate District 33 is a gigantic district. It takes up 8 parishes from West Carroll to Webster. Geographically, it's larger than Delaware and Rhode Island combined, if you just want to put that into perspective. They've got 58 senators. District 33 gets 1. And I've been honored and privileged to be their one. I am a lifelong Republican. 4 years ago on the campaign trail, we coined a term called convenient conservatism. And that means that for far too long, we've seen people stand here and espouse conservative values only to go to Baton Rouge and throw them to the wind and not continue to to represent the people that, as they said they would. And I'm proud to say that over the last 4 years, I've stood firm with my conservative principles. I'm the only person in this race who can say that they stood up to John Bel Edwards and fought for you. When John Bel Edwards and convenient conservatives killed legislation to ban sex changes for kids, I'm proud to say that I made the motion to revive that bill, and today, sex changes for kids are outlawed. When John Bel Edwards vetoed a piece of legislation that was going to allow boys to play girls' sports, I'm glad to say that I stood firm and I voted to override the governor's veto. When John Bel Edwards tried to eliminate Congresswoman Julia Letlow's congressional district, I'm proud to say that I stood to override the governor's veto on that. I think that my conservative... And look, and I see Michael and Lance and Foy here. We all were lockstep in that, so I can't take all the credit for that, but I am proud to say that we did protect Congresswoman Letlow's congressional district. Along with those social issues, we've done a lot of good things here in Louisiana over the last 4 years. We've brought record investment back here to Northeast Louisiana to the tune of almost $900 million in Senate District 33. We've lowered your personal income tax rates by 1/3, strengthened our business tax climate, improved pay for teachers. What does that one mean? I'm out? Oh. All right, I would go through my list. Continue to follow us on Facebook, and you can see the multitude of endorsements from conservative entities, the business community that we've gotten. But I will say that those endorsements are great, but the most important endorsement's on October 14th, and that's what I'm going to ask for is your endorsement when you go to the polls. Thank you.
Good evening. First, I want to thank my wife for standing by my side in this journey, and also my mother, who's here tonight. That's instilled in me independence, responsibility, and respect. That's made me what I am today. For those of you that know me, I'm not a politician. I've never run for office. It hasn't been my lifelong dream to do so. What I am is a businessman and a job creator for 30 years with knowledge and experience of what this district consists of. I've spoken to hundreds of people in this district, and quite frankly, they're stressed and stretched out and want to see change in North Louisiana. That's why we need more business owners and leaders running this state that knows what it takes to make a payroll and it's actually ran a business. Our people must be rewarded with lower taxes. Eliminating the state income tax and reducing the sales tax in order to attract new businesses to the state and keep the ones that we have here now. We also need a major overhaul in our infrastructure, something that we shouldn't have to wait decades more to be done in order to attract new industry into our state. If Louisiana would have grown like our neighboring southern states in the last 3 to 4 years, Louisiana would have had 240,000 more jobs. There needs to be sweeping changes in the way our state departments operate in order to ease regulations, permitting, and licensing. Business owners should not wait years or months to get in business because, quite frankly, not everybody can afford to float themselves. So a lot of them can't get into business. You're broke before you even start. In our education system, we need more parental control, not political control. And we need to also reintegrate trade school classes. Not every child's going to college, but I want them equipped when they get out that they can get a job. On crime, we need major attention in dealing with our juveniles. I've spoken to every sheriff and every district attorney throughout this district. And the problem is there's no place to house these individuals. I'd like to see multiple detention centers built throughout our district, but also teach them a trade as well. So when they get out, they're equipped to get a job and not just get back on the streets. We need both leadership that work with the people and other elected officials in order to attract projects to North Louisiana. I'm not interested in getting bought off by the lobbyists or special interest groups. When this takes place, your vote doesn't matter. And that's a lot of what we've had going on in this position now. I will make myself accessible and available by taking your calls and calling you back, because it's not about you. I mean, it's not about me, it's about you. If or when I'm elected, the first thing I will restore is dignity and confidence back to you, the people of this district and this state. Dignity meaning a state or quality worthy of honor and respect, and confidence meaning firm trust. I'm a conservative here at home, and as your next state senator, I will vote conservative in Baton Rouge. This is why I'm asking you to join me, because together we can make North Louisiana grow again. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the organizations that organized this thing for us to hear the candidates. It's a great venue. My name's Foy Dadberry. I represent District 15, which is Calhoun. It's not a municipality. There's no mayors. We're under the auspices of the Ouachita Parish Police Jury. My background is some of you know, some of you don't know. I've got a degree in architecture. I went to Louisiana Tech, and immediately after I received that degree, I got a civil engineering degree. At that time, which was in '79, I couldn't find a job in North Louisiana, so I had to go to Little Rock, Arkansas. I stayed in Little Rock for 20 months, and I came back to Louisiana in 1980. I've been here ever since, representing civic organizations around colleges, both colleges. I jokingly tell people, they say, well, when did you come to Tech? And I said, I came to Tech in 1957. And they kind of look at me and I say, well, I was only 3 years old. My dad was at Tech on the GI Bill. So I actually came to Tech in '72. But my focus has been, I sit on three committees. I'm probably one of the only House members that has 3 committees they sit on: Transportation, House and Government, and Municipal and Parochial. My expertise is in transportation. That's what I've done. I've designed bridges, roads, water systems, sewer systems all over North Louisiana. I bring a technical expertise to the legislature. Most legislators don't know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about construction and detention ponds and pressures on water systems and things like that, because that's not their forte. You know, likewise, I don't understand everything in the medical field, but I'm learning. I've focused on trying to educate legislature on both sides of the aisle on the aspects of infrastructure, the technical things that come up that they need to know about. One in particular is, I was put on the electric vehicle task force, and in that task force, they kept talking about how we're going to tax electrical vehicles to get back our gas money that they're not buying, et cetera. I said, okay, let's equate 1 gallon of gas to how many kilowatts of power you're charging. Let's find that equation. Well, the equation is, it takes, for every 1 gallon of gas, it takes 9 kilowatts of electricity. So for every 9 kilowatts of electricity, they're going to be required to pay that 20-cent gas tax. You can equate it with anything. You can equate it with hydrogen, if that's the next fuel. You can equate so many pounds of hydrogen gas to so many gallons of gas. So it puts everybody on a level playing field. Nobody understands that, but I'm trying to get them to understand that. I am running for another term. I appreciate your vote come August 14th. Please support me. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm State Representative Neil Reiser. I'm running for re-election in House District 20, which now encompasses part of the lower part of Ouachita Parish. Born and raised in Caldwell Parish. I've been a self-employed businessman for 39 years. This is my 16th year to serve in the legislature. And I have, if not, the most conservative voting records. I have the highest rating within NRA you can possibly have, pro-life, our Christian values, and I heard Mark talking about a while ago, I think we should allow our police to be able to do their job and be able to enforce that. We have a lot of issues coming before us. So election's going to be October the 14th, but I want to just add something that's rejuvenated me personally in life. See my senator over there, Glenn Womack, and Judy. Glenn, I don't know if you remember talking about the grandchildren. What's the most important thing? Since the last time I ran 4 years ago, I've got 2 grandchildren, 3, and one is 7 months old, and another one on the way on November the 27th. So it's actually put some second wind in my sail, and I see my stepbrother there. I'm proud to see it. Thank you.
My name is Kevin Bates. I'm from Winsboro. I'm running also. Neil Reiser usually introduces himself as the current state representative. I'll introduce myself as the next state representative in District 20. 4 years ago in the 2019 fall elections, with the encouragement of some troubled and honestly concerned citizens, I embarked on a journey to change the perception and the political practices that were deeply rooted in the 20th District, has been for a long time, broken promises, forgotten commitments, politics over people. I had very little money and even less name recognition. I did, however, have a few very loyal friends and very impassioned friends. And when the final vote was counted that fall, I had garnered 49.18% of the vote. 49.18% of the vote, and that was against a career politician who you just heard from, who had already served 12 years in the state senate in Baton Rouge. Someone who had thumbed his nose at the term limit legislation that he voted for, simply saying that law doesn't apply to me. He would outspend our campaign many times over. I chose not to accept money from the gambling groups and other groups who didn't have our state's interest at heart. The people had spoken very loud and clear. We are tired of politics in Louisiana as usual, especially in our district. And every day from that day until now, I continue to hear from those same wonderful people all the time, and they're simply saying, we're tired. We're tired of the politicians taking our vote for granted and then doing absolutely nothing for us once they get to Baton Rouge. They only care about themselves. I'm running for many reasons, but I'll just give you 2. Number 1, our families. My wife, Kayla, who I've had the joy of being married to for nearly 2 decades, who I have remained faithfully committed to that entire time, the vow that we made back then. Our children. And well, let me just say this about my wife. I've probably embarrassed her a couple of times. One time I know for sure when she had to face the town at the buffet line on Sunday afternoon after I preached a horrible sermon. I'm a pastor, by the way, full-time. I'll be a politician part-time. My children also, who have grown up in Louisiana and are growing up in Louisiana, attending public schools in Louisiana and hopefully continuing their education in one of our great universities and colleges here, and then hopefully begin to live out their dream here in Louisiana and their families. So I will fight for our families, and I will fight to allow our people in Northeast Louisiana in District 20 to have a voice in Baton Rouge that's going to carry their values there, not just to go there and fulfill and build up their own political agenda and find the next step up. So I want to thank you all for your support. Only about 3 or 4 of you in this room can vote for us because we just have a little small southern tip of the parish. But I want to thank you. God bless you. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you tonight. Kevin Bates, State Representative, District 20. God bless.
Sorry, I'm vertically challenged. Good evening. I'm Tony Bacon, and I'm running for Ouachita Parish Police Jury District 8. I was approached by business people and others in early June to consider running for this open seat. They believe that my involvement in the community and my banking experience of 29 plus years would be an asset to the police jury. So after a lot of prayer and encouragement by peers, many of whom are in this room tonight, I announced my candidacy for police jury later that month. Since that time, I've shared with many groups and individuals 3 areas of focus. Number 1, communication. As I've said since early June, I plan on having quarterly town hall meetings to give people a chance to share their concerns, as well as give me a place to let them know about upcoming agenda items that could impact and or benefit them. In addition to meetings, I'm inviting all the constituents to follow my Facebook page, where I will share police jury agendas and encourage them to comment so they feel like they have a voice in items that are being discussed. As a police jury, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that our constituents understand what items that are on the agenda that we may be voting on. Number 2, I'm pro-business. I've been in banking and development for over 29 years. I work with businesses, understanding their struggles, and working to find solutions is what I do every day as a commercial lender. I will do this same thing as a police juror, working to find solutions to challenges facing our parish. I also understand the need to attract new business to our area, and I want to work with our local mayors and chambers and our delegation to do just that. But I don't want to stop there. We also have to retain the existing businesses that are here. As a commercial lender, I call on my existing customers all the time. 1, to make sure that they're doing well and have everything they need to be successful, but 2, to let them know that they're appreciated and valued. We must do the same thing with our existing businesses in this parish, by working with them to make sure their needs are being met, and then through infrastructure, workforce development, and more, but also to let them know that we value them and we want them to stay here. Number 3, I'm a fiscal conservative. Just like when you serve on your church's finance committee, you need to be good stewards of the tithes that come in. In the same way, on the police jury, you must be good fiduciaries of the taxpayers' money. We must make sure we're spending our money wisely. I look at financials all the time. P&Ls and balance sheets work together to give us more of a complete picture of the true health of any business. As your next police juror, I would work closely with Brad Kamak, our treasurer, to make sure that I understand the budget, as well as evaluate contracts to make sure we're getting the best for our parish in terms of value and quality. I would also like to look for ways to increase revenues other than raising taxes by working with our local mayors to apply for federal grants to better our parish as a whole. So I'll end. Communication, pro-business, fiscal conservative. I believe my experience in banking and to the service to this community for decades makes me an excellent candidate for District A. Thank you for your time, and I'd appreciate your support and your vote. Thank you.
How's everybody? Supposed to say good. Good to see you. First of all, I want to say thank you to RPEC for putting this together. This has been a great event. This is a first time experience for me to speak to a bunch of people that have a lot of experience in places that I don't. I'll be honest, I'm not a politician. You've heard that, what, 6, 7 times tonight? We're not politicians. We're not. We're people. And we're here to do a job. And that job is to serve the communities. That job is to serve the neighborhoods, the people of Louisiana. Some of us are going to have districts. Some of us are going to have more parishes than others. But we're all going to have the same thing. And that's people to represent. I'm here because I'm running for District A, Police Jury, Ouachita Parish. And I want to do exactly that. I want to represent the people. First of all, I want to listen. I can't do anything for the people unless I listen. Second, I got to work with others. Right now, I'm a regional manager with a major retailer. I have over 200 stores. That's 200 store managers. That's 10 to 12 district managers that call me every day. Not a day goes by that I don't get a phone call. I've had 3 tonight. Guess what I'm going to do when I leave here? I'm going to return those phone calls. Why? Because it's the people. That's the people that are calling me for direction. They're calling me because they need something. They're calling me because they have a desire to get something met. And they're calling me because they know that I can do it. So, if elected, when elected, I'm going to do that same thing for the people of Ouachita Parish District A. I'm going to listen. I'm going to respond. And I'm going to work with those who can help us accomplish the things that we need to see done in District A of Ouachita Parish. We've got roads that need to be fixed. We've got bridges that need to be repaired. We've got things that need to be done. I can't do it by myself. Jeff Landry said it best. We got to work together. I need to work with the state representatives. I need to work with the senators. I need to work with the treasurers. I need to work with the people that can help us get accomplished the things that we need accomplished in District A of Ouachita Parish. It's called teamwork, because the acronym of TEAM is together everyone achieves more. Thank you. Tim Hatton.
Good afternoon. Let me introduce myself. I am Larry Bratton. Currently, I am the Police Jury District Representative of District C, which ultimately runs through the heart of Ouachita Parish. Starts up around the Morehouse Parish line, encompasses both sides of the river. The only district that encompasses both sides of the river. Very diverse district. Some of the things that we've had going on within the police jury over the last 4 years have been somewhat, what I would say, taking us away. We've had the opportunity to really put some investments into Ouachita Parish. Some of our long-term investments, we're reaching out. Ouachita Parish Police Jury allocated $1.5 million to the Biomedical Research Innovation Park for multiple reasons. Number one is to grow our educational system. Number two is to make an economic development investment that ultimately brings our entrepreneurs that are located here closely, gives them the opportunity to come in and to get access to research and to other individuals who certainly can help them to move their projects forward, but also to help our children stay here in this region. You know, losing the kids and having to travel all the time to go see grandkids is not something that's real pleasurable. We want to be able to have the jobs here that are available for our children and our grandchildren as we move forward. So the biomedical research investment was certainly a huge, big investment. Some of the other investments that we're making in the community, of course, some of the biggest impacted communities within the region from the pandemic certainly were our senior citizens who were located out in some of the rural areas. We've invested almost $1 million with VCOM to put together 2 mobile medical units that will ultimately give us the availabilities to be able to reach out to all of those individuals in the rural parishes, or the rural aspects of the parish, to go out and to bring medicine or to bring health care out there to them. This is a great opportunity. What this does is it gives us the capabilities of not only being able to go and do some outreach with our elderly citizens outside of the metropolitan areas that have a hard time with transportation, but it also is an advantage to VCOM by giving their students the opportunity to get clinical time while they're doing that. These medical mobile units can also be something that would be dispatched to any type of an emergency that we may have around. Certainly we have made ourselves, and we've strategically planned within the parish to make sure that we're making ourselves the place when refugees from down south ultimately have a place to come, and we've got all the amenities and all the different services that they're going to need here. We really look forward to that. After last year's hurricanes, some of the comments that we got from some of the southern areas on what a great job was done here by the individuals within Ouachita Parish was just really, really amazing. Look, the Ouachita Parish Police Jury, I know that a lot of people don't really understand all of the different functions that we do, but we really touch a lot of things in everyone's life. So thank you very much. Please consider Larry Bratton for District C, Ouachita Parish Police.
Thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you, RPEC, for hosting such a great event. I know a lot of people in the room, but let me introduce myself to some of those who I do not know yet. My name is Lee Denny, and I'm a candidate for Ouachita Parish Police Jury District C. Married to my wife, Anna, for 23 years. We have 2 children, Sydney, who attends ULM, and Anna Grace, who attends Ole Miss. I graduated from ULM, well, NLU back then, but ULM now, in 1992 with a degree in finance. Right after I graduated, I went into business for myself. I've been in business now for 31 years and have maintained a residence in Ouachita Parish for the last 31 years. Some of my past experiences that will enable me to become your voice on the police jury are, I've been on the police jury before. I've served 8 years in local government as a police jury. I've served as a police jury president for 4 years. So I understand and I know how local politics and local government works. I've been a deputy port director on the Mississippi River. Some of the key topics on my platform are, we don't have a lot of time so I can't go over all of them, but a few things are, economic development. I think it's incumbent upon us as all forms of government to help our small businesses grow. If we have small businesses in our area that want to grow, we need to give them the tools and the resources to help them grow. The fact of the matter is, these businesses have already invested in Ouachita Parish. They go to our churches. Their kids go to our school. They donate to every fundraiser we have. So let's help those businesses that want to grow. Let's help them grow. Do we want to attract new businesses? Absolutely. We got something in our backyard that a lot of people don't have, and that's a river. We are a multimodal hub of transportation. When new businesses look at a place to expand or to grow, they look at ways they can move their goods in and out of our parish. We have river access, we have rail access, we have airports, and of course we have the highway. That's 4 things that a lot of places in America don't have. We need to utilize that river more to attract new jobs. I'm Lee Denny. I'm running for Ouachita Parish Police Jury District C. I would love your support, but please keep me in your prayers. Thank you so much.
Good evening, guys. Politician with 16 years experience, and I get 30 seconds, 3 minutes. What do I get? I've been getting texts and advice here in the last 10 seconds about, hey, I know how you can do it. You know, you're the only thing between us and dinner. Just go up there and end it all. Get everybody out of here. Last but not least, I'm Shane Smiley. I'm running for District E, Police Jury. I have served on the police jury for 16 years. I'm seeking re-election to my 5th term. I have served in every capacity on the jury in the last 16 years, 12 times as the president. And I say that because I appreciate my colleagues allowing me to serve as the president and represent and be the face of the jury for many, many years. I will say that my opponent is a very, very liberal Democrat from New York that thought she was running against Larry Bratton. So Larry, I took one for the team, buddy. Congratulations. In all seriousness, I've enjoyed my time on the jury. People ask me, I work every day, I continue to serve on the jury, and how do you do it? The truth of the matter is this: I get to do what I enjoy every day. I have a job that I love, and I have a community that I love. I love public service. I love being able to move things forward here. I like many of the others have said tonight, I understand the local government and the legislative process. I think that my terms and my time on the jury speak for themselves. When I was first elected to the jury, people were getting indicted and going to jail. So, you know, we've come a long way, baby. I do apologize that I came in late and that I did not get to hear every or many of the candidates speak tonight. I know that the turnout has been very, very good. The ones that I did get to hear, I'm very excited about because those are people that I hope to potentially work with. I'm looking forward to serving with whoever is elected to the jury because I plan on coming back. I want to continue my work on the jury. I'm passionate about Ouachita Parish. This has been my home for 30 years. I've been very active in the community. I've been very active with the jury, and I want to continue to do that. I understand that we have a lot of work to do. I know that tonight there was almost a fist fight about roads and drainage, and we worked through it. So I want to continue to work for you, work for the people of Ouachita Parish. Misty, I'm last. I can go as long as I want. In all seriousness, please consider me for another term on the jury. I appreciate the opportunity to serve for many years. Thank you very much.
Wow, what a great night. So if anybody had any questions, how important tonight was, I think that has been answered. From the people coming in from South Louisiana that took their time and drove 3.5, 4 hours to come visit with North Louisiana, we are now going to start making a difference. They're going to hear us. They saw the turnout tonight and they want to be a part of it, I can assure you. Please, before you leave, stop by any of the booths along the edge, sign up for any candidate that you want to help, grab some of the swag, the balloons and pins and cups and hats and stuff like that. And again, our heartfelt thanks for you showing up tonight and supporting the Republican Party of Ouachita Parish. What a great night it has been. Thank you, and be safe going home.